Three female entrepreneurs turned besties share on life, business, and the journey through the mess. Join their community with every new episode for connection, education, a few laughs, and the hype energy like a bathroom full of drunk girls at a bar. It's okay.
We're your friends now.
Hey y'all, it's Biz, and on today's episode, we are talking about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And I've got, of course, our co-hosts here, Ashleigh.
Hello.
And Katie.
Hi.
And that's what we're talking about today, is really just feeling the fear and what to do with it and all of the above. So let's jump right on into it here. What role has fear played for you, Ashleigh?
You know, I have such a weird relationship with fear. I grew up as a total scaredy cat kid. Like, I would not go on roller coasters. I would cry the entire time my family made me stand in line. I would beg for them to let me just wait off on the side of the ride. And they made me go on so many roller coasters. And they always thought like, oh, she'll have fun when she's on it. And sometimes I did, but I was such a stubborn kid that I was like, I refused to admit if I did. So I just
how old were you when you what's your first time that you remember?
Like starting from 6 years old. And then I sort of started wanting to ride roller coasters maybe when I was like 16, but still was a little apprehensive about them. I had one boyfriend and he wanted to go to the Knott's Berry Farm.
That's the truth.
And I wanted to impress him. I don't know if you guys have seen Knott's Berry Farm. They have one of those stupid rides that you just sit in a big circle basically, and it takes you straight up and then holds you like way, way up there and then just drops you straight down.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, they had one of those and he wanted to do it and I wanted to be so. And it's like just such a cool girlfriend. So I voluntarily did that one. I thought I was going to pass out at the top of that ride. Just tunnel vision, staring straight ahead, not moving. And he's like looking at me like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like deadpan straight, not talking to him. Like I probably look terrifying. So anyways, I've been weird about fear my whole life because not only have I struggled with being sort of a scaredy cat type of person, but also being annoyingly stubborn about it. And it's weird.
I have to tell you the story before you move on too far from that boyfriend story, because I have one too with similar, with roller coasters, and it's cool that you did it anyway and it spiraled you into now loving them, right? Like, do you like them now or you don't like them now?
Oh yeah, now I love them and I'm waiting. Like my kids are scared of cats.
Yeah. See, I heard you say that too. I'm like, okay, I've got a decade of forcing Liv on them, and then eventually some boy's gonna come along and she's gonna be like, oh yeah, mom's prepped me for this my whole life.
And then they'll finally be like, thanks, mom.
Yeah, I'm laughing because that's the exact same similar story of how I ended up on a roller coaster for the first time. And I was in high school, and it was like this one where you sit and your feet dangle, and the harness comes over your shoulders. And we went around the first loop, and it was my first time on a roller coaster ever. And I felt something pinch me in my shirt. And I freaked out, and I thought it was the holster holding me that was pinching because it was shaking and then I was gonna fall out. And so the entire time I started having this nervous break, anxiety attack, snot's flying off my face. I'm screaming, all of this shit. I'm pretty sure I'm dying. And I get off the ride, and I still feel this thing pinching me in my shirt. And I shook out my shirt, and it was a wasp. It stung me so many times on the road and on the ride. And my boyfriend at the time stomped on it and saved the day. But I spent an hour in the infirmary, and I told people for literally a decade. It wasn't until I think it was recently, within the past 5 years since I got on a real roller coaster again, because I felt it was an omen that I should never get on roller coasters ever.
You had your final destination moment.
But yeah, a wasp must have gone down my shirt in the first loop-de-loop and just stung me the entire time. It was awful. So that scared me from doing them for a long time. And I just started doing them again. Yeah.
This is going to be my new question to ask people is how do you feel about roller coasters? Because what an interesting,
it's such a gateway, right? It's like all of our, like pretty much everybody's got a good roller coaster story at some point. I feel like we find like it. So it's a good gateway into fear. So what else? Okay. What other exhilarating things? Like I definitely would not consider myself a, like an adrenaline junkie. Would either of you? Are you?
I don't call myself an adrenaline junkie and I don't really imagine myself to be by any stretch, but I feel like I spent so much of my childhood trying to be stubborn against doing things I didn't want to do that sometimes I didn't do things I wanted to do because they were too close in line with the things I didn't want to do. And so I was like, I'm just going to be completely stubborn and not do any of it. So when I became an adult and I was kind of like, this is dumb. There's just stuff I want to do. And yeah, people are going to kind of be like, that doesn't really make sense that you did that. And I don't care anymore. So I just wanted to start experiencing things and not be in my own way anymore. And that is what has spurred me to do a lot of the things that like people would be like, oh, you're an adrenaline junkie. But it's not, I don't know. I'm not chasing the adrenaline. I don't even really like a lot of it, but it's like, I don't know. I don't like it because I've never tried it.
So like my dad used to always talk about once in a lifetime experiences. And like, that's how like I grew up with it, with that framing, that phrasing. And so I always tell my people, like, I'll do anything twice for a good time because, because like the first time, like I might've done it wrong. You know what I mean?
You might have been down your shirt.
Yeah. So yeah, with that, but too, like I'm an experienced chasing person too, right? Like, I mean, what else do we have in this earth to do, but to do that? I think at least that's me. What Katie? What do you think? What do you think?
I don't think I'm an adrenaline junkie, like at all. I think I'm also an experienced person. Like base jumping has there's nothing in me that wants to ever do something like that, but I think certain things would be fun. Like I don't know. I think a lot of things I like are enjoyable, but I don't think it's the adrenaline. Like what was I? Oh, I was watching Love Is Blind the other night. Or no. I'm
Golden
sorry.
Bachelor?
No, I was watching Married at First Sight. I was showing Brett.
Oh.
And these people went out on some four-wheelers and the guy was like, she joined me in an extreme sport today. And I was like, well, that's not really extreme or like an adrenaline thing. But it got me to thinking about it because I do really love four-wheelers. And I think it's like experiences where I can just be totally free and really present. And like that's super enjoyable to me. But I don't think it's like an adrenaline thing. And I actually very much don't like to feel out of control.
That's what I was going to say, you know what, Katie? For being somebody that I know likes to be in control, the two examples you gave, base jumping, you're not in control.
Yeah.
ATVs, you are.
Oh, yeah. 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 So I think that's
interesting.
So is that what you're scared of? Are you scared of not being in control?
I don't think I'm scared of the adrenaline. I just don't like it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm scared of not being in control. Like that's like the root of a lot of my fear.
Do you struggle with being a passenger when other people are driving?
If I'm not busy, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I do.
I struggle with that a lot.
Can we have my husband as a guest host real quick to talk to you about what I'm like as a passenger? He hates it.
The title of Shane and Brett's episode would be Stop Making That Sound.
Okay, well,
this is me while they're driving.
I wasn't a nervous passenger until I got in a really, really bad wreck. And oddly enough, I wasn't scared to drive after that, but I was very, very scared. I think it's because, like the only reason that I walked away from that wreck is because I was driving and I was able to like maneuver my car in such a way that I like very narrowly saved my life. And so now when I'm a passenger and I'm not the one in control, no matter how much I trust the person or how great of a driver they are, I hate it. And it's almost like I have imaginary brake pedals in my passenger seat. My foot is like stomping against the ground.
So going back to fear. So we've talked about stuff that where like we started, right? And then like Katie just brought up a really interesting point about something that changed, that there was like a moment in her life, right? And Ashleigh, like you were kind of saying like you're not sure when that moment changed. So like we know that there are like times that we can identify where something that we weren't scared of, all of a sudden we became scared of. And I think that is maybe like just growing up, right? Like you're not, it's all about risk. It's risk layering, right? And like each of us have our own individual risks, and I just think that's cool how that represents how it's pulling itself out.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because my fears of like your daily stuff, things like, oh, like what if something bad happens to my kids? What if something bad happens while I'm driving? Those kinds of things have increased like significantly for me. But with that, all the fear I used to have of things like roller coasters and like the just things that you don't need to be scared of, that has gone down. So it like almost, I don't know if I would say flipped, but it's
well,
just,
I mean, yeah, I like that. It's cool, like how your value layering's there. I think a lot of women can address that, or can relate, or parents in general, not just women, right? But then like once you have spawn, like it's no longer about you, right? And so I think a lot of people can relate to that.
What did you call that? Value layering?
Value layering.
Value layering.
Am I going to rename intrusive thoughts to value layering?
You should. I made that up. Thanks, guys.
Well, it's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the value layering is something that I've been like hyper focused on lately, right? In like all areas of my life, because I'm really into this whole, what am I saying no to when I'm saying yes to this?
Yeah.
And like getting really hyper focused on all things that I've been learning from Katie too. So
we should have recorded this on a roller coaster.
Next time.
What's really funny though is like on roller coasters. So like I went to Disney a few years ago, and they were like, okay, now when the camera, like when you get to the camera, do this face or do this action or whatever. And I'm having the time of my life. And in every single photo, I'm like this. It is like, I'm not actually scared, but I think it's because it pushes me to be so present that I'm just enjoying it for like whatever it is. And like, I did not even know there was a camera. You could have told me 25 times. In that moment, I'm dropping like the bottoms out, and my face is.
I am a total screamer on roller coasters. Like I just can't help it. And my husband is not. Like if you ever seen that guy who does the straight face on roller coasters,
mm-hmm.
That's what my husband is like. Shane is so straight faced on him. And we went to Disney World and we went on the brand new Star Wars rides. I've never been on it. And it's just like you're just like driving through stuff. It's fast and everything, but it's not a roller coaster. And so you get to this one part where you're like it feels like you're like in an elevator and you're looking out the window of like the spaceship, and out of nowhere it just drops.
Oh,
it was so fun. The kids loved it. I loved it, but I just screamed so loud. And that is their favorite memory, because Shane just looks over at me and just shakes his head no. Like, does not approve of screaming.
You know what I think part of it is, though, is like living, and I'm sure I'll talk more about this, but like as you're trying to overcome fear, or as you're living your daily life, and especially when you have some kind of fear or perfection, like hang up or whatever, like those situations where it's acceptable or expected to just let yourself be. It's almost like the control thing, right? Like I'm not in control of what's happening, and I have to trust that whoever built this, made this, was in control of what they did. And so I just tell myself like, I'm safe, I'm okay. And then you actually allow yourself the freedom to like enjoy it and scream, because in my normal life, I'm a very expressive person. However, I don't go around just like having massive reactions to things unless it's like I cry a lot, but like I don't just scream. I'm very much a like respond, don't react kind of person. And I think it's those situations where I'm forced into a position of like I can just scream my heart out here, you know.
I also love that you just said respond, not react. Like, can I just chew on that and internalize it? Okay, thanks. Yeah. So there was, it's crazy. You're talking about the control thing, right? Or like when something happens to us that makes us scared of something that we weren't scared of before. And it's like in my case with the roller coasters, right? Like I wasn't scared. I just never really had the opportunity to do it. And then I was like, wow, I should be scared of this. Like there are things that I didn't even consider that could happen to me to put me in danger. And I think that that's what it was for me. But like what's so crazy is I'm sitting here talking to you guys, and like the last time, like it took me, I think, really close to 2 decades to get back on a roller coaster. And the thing that did it was peer pressure. Peer pressure or FOMO, right? Like the fear of missing out with my friends. It was a group of our friends. I don't know if either one of you were with us, but we were actually in Orlando. We went to Universal Studios, and I wasn't gonna like wimp out and not go, right? And so I still haven't gone on like a real roller coaster. I would think. I think I went on the scary ones in Harry Potter World.
They were fast.
Is what I did. Yeah, and there's that Hagrid's ride one it's got a little bit spooky stuff in it.
That's a pep in the step.
But it's so cool, like listening to you talk, Ashleigh, because like the full circle of that is then because I went on it with my friends and was like brave enough to do it. I brought Liv back later in the year and made her do it with me as her first like big roller coaster. Yeah. And then like it's kind of cool, like I'm sitting here listening to you guys and realizing like my kid actually makes me brave a lot of times, because really the first roller coaster I got on was the little ladybug in City Park with her in New Orleans, because she wanted to ride it and I wasn't gonna wimp out in front of her, like of course mama's brave, you don't need daddy for this, I got this. And so like it's other people, I think, sometimes that kind of force you into getting over your fear. Or like for me, it's like seeing other people do it, right? The same thing with the ear piercing. Like
I think that's such an important conversation too, and I think that it can have a lot to do with fear. So I'm gonna are we clocking at what time tears start per episode? Because I'm pretty sure I'll cry during this.
Timestamp.
So like I don't remember being fearless much in my childhood. And then when I was 14, I broke my back in 6 places and watched my entire future like just dissolve. What I thought, every plan that I had for myself and my life was stripped from me. And I mean, to the point where I was given 6 months to live when I was 15. Gosh. And like after, it's weird because for a while it didn't even sink in. Like I was kind of like our favorite word. I was like delulu about it. I was like, I was 14 and I was like, okay, cool. Like once I feel better, I'm going to go back to all this stuff. And after that happened, I became a very fearful person. And I noticed it first when we were on a road trip, and I all of a sudden just started like freaking out going over a bridge, and I had never been scared of bridges. And it was also weird to me how quickly I just accepted that I'm scared of bridges, but then I was scared of everything. And I think that having something so out of my control changed the entire course of my life, really impacted that. But then I as I got older, and there's a lot of times in my life where I've seen different fears come and go, and I can break down the beginning and end point of them, and usually they're significant events. And one of the overarching things in my life until my mid-30s or mid-20s, good Lord, let's not age myself, was realizing that my perfectionism that I clung so tightly to because I loved how it made me present myself and my work was actually a fear. And it was driven not from an experience, but from an environment that I had been in for so long. And I was so scared to show anything of mine that wasn't finished, wasn't perfect, that I didn't have like fully prepared with 10 arguments about why it was ready to go or good or whatever. And a lot of it had to do with like growing up in an environment that I was in. And, you know, it was so interesting having that stripped away and like peeling the layers back on that and how to get away from that perfectionism and let go of that fear and that really like feeling safe to be seen. And once I started to let that go, a lot of other fears diminished too, because when I realized that I'm strong and capable and good, then, you know, what does a roller coaster have on me? You know, it can rock my world for a couple minutes.
Shit. I can't let that go without interrupting that. That is so great, Katie. You're right. Absolutely. Nothing. 100%. And that is so rock solid. That is so rock solid there without the shit there. I mean, I love you for that. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, is where Safe to Be Seen came from and why I pull it from. I mean, Katie, that's absolutely incredible. Rock on.
Thanks. And I think it was a combination of like, you know, my coach at the time who finally told me that my perfectionism was paralyzing me and that I actually wasn't hitting my goals because of it. And then being around people who saw through it and actually really like, they saw the imperfect parts of me that I thought I was really good at hiding them. They saw the imperfect parts of me and they didn't use it as a negative thing. They used it as opportunities to pour into me and love me and like either grow me or teach me how to leverage out different things. And it made me kind of let go of some of that fear. And now it's beautiful to be fearless. And when I am fearful of something, I sit with myself and journal a lot about why and where it comes from. And it's almost always stemming from like something unresolved in my soul.
Yeah, that's so true. Fear, I think there's so many places it can come from. And fear of things like the product of our work, the convictions that we hold, our own personal value, those totally stem from something that is just so unhealed within ourselves. And it's really hard to identify.
It is.
And I think that's kind of like what we were talking about, or it's a recurring theme with us about having people who've waddled through their own shit before they come to a place to have a conversation. Right. Yeah. And like, I think that is individual for each person in each relationship, but the premise itself is necessary, right? To have the respect or the place to pour into someone's life. And I love that we're doing the letters of recommendation podcast and us talking about that, because it's kind of our opportunity to about each of us have shown up in others' lives in that way to establish that relationship. But the relationship in itself still needs to be established by you being vulnerable about the things that you've been through and feeling safe enough to be seen with the person you're talking to. And that right there is I think the biggest issue is with the perfectionism as a whole, like what Katie's talking about. And maybe that's part of what brought us all together in the first place, is to talk about the perfectionism and what that does. But that affirmation of being safe to be seen is such a foundational affirmation for between Katie and I's relationship. And it's funny because it didn't even come into works until a couple months ago. I mean, we've been friends for years.
Yeah, it was so funny because actually one of our other friends, Kristen Carter, shout out to all of your Arizona real estate needs. she sent me this TikTok and she was like, I saw this morning and thought, and for some reason felt like you needed to see it. And it was this guy just talking about feeling safe to be seen. And it's funny because my initial reaction was, I feel pretty safe to be seen. And then I was like, nope, you know what? Actually, maybe there's like this one little part of me that I've been working on. And so I sat with that for a little bit. But immediately when I watched it, I was like, Biz and I just had a conversation that's so similar to this. And so I was like, obviously I need to send this to, or I need to see this to send it to her. But then it also like made me think some more. But and it's so interesting to me how that perfectionism shows up, because especially, you know, like we're all entrepreneurs and we all really highly value our work. And so that's something that we're really proud of. And the perfectionism, I feel, goes hand in hand with it, because we do sometimes we feel like we have to fight for our place at the table, or we have to fight, you know, like I love having a chip on my shoulder. I love being the underdog and proving my worth. And like, I think that we cling to this perfectionism as something to be proud of, when really like the beauty is unpeeling that and like you allow those other spaces to grow.
Yeah. It's interesting because I don't think I'd ever have said I struggle with perfectionism, but I do struggle with adequacy and feelings of that. In terms of like you're saying, oh, you kind of have to fight for your seat at the table, is that I know there will always be somebody who's doing more than me, somebody with a bigger business, somebody who's more present, somebody doing this or that and the other.
For sure.
And I struggle with that immensely, because I always feel like, okay, if I'm going to show up and do, let's say, this podcast, well, who am I? There's somebody else out there who's built more community, who's done more for their friends, who's done this. And that, like, it's never been in my head like I need to perfect the product I'm putting out. It's more the fear of who am I to be putting out the product.
I relate to that a lot. That imposter syndrome echo in your head for like what you're fearful of. And the thing is you just got to do it anyway. We can thank Brene Brown for that with me. And I mean, obviously Brene Brown, I feel like she should be a household name at this point. Like to at least know who she is. I mean, you know, but what she talks about is vulnerability and shame. And she writes about it really beautifully, because she draws on this human connection, like this string where like anybody who reads it can instantly relate. And I think it's really powerful that she's built this whole empire, right, on calling out the human connection, and is what it is, and reminding us all that we all experience this stuff. And so, you know, I think the same way. In fact, with this podcast, I mean, that's why I rallied you guys. I hate to say it like that. I don't want to say it like that. Like I rallied you guys together.
You totally did, though.
It was your idea.
I know. I showed up to a group message and I was like, what are we doing? A podcast?
Well, that's why I rallied you guys together, is because I know that I'm scared and y'all are scared, but like the three of us together, that we can actually push the button. And that's kind of like going back to what you were talking about, Ashleigh, right? That, and I feel, but that's what I was talking about, was like pushing the button, right? Like so many times, I think the key to success is just pushing the fucking button.
Okay. Seriously. It's well, I won't. Whatever. It's not Sunday. Can we go to
fear though? Like,
can we go to church? Can we go to church for a second? Can I just
take us to church?
I got my church finger. I'm ready. Hold up. You gotta whip it out. You got. Hold on. Hang on, everybody. Katie's raising her church finger. You gotta be quiet.
Girl church.
Girl church.
Okay, we're going to flash back to what I said a couple minutes ago. I was given 6 months to live when I was 15 years old. Okay. There's no medical scientific reason why I outlived that. For those listening, I'm 35 now. I'm not really great at math, but I don't think that's 6 months. Again, check my numbers. Okay. I lived a lot of time of my life thinking that if I was not just grateful to wake up or like happy with what was in front of me, then I was an ungrateful person. the truth that I'm about to say is as true for me as it is for y'all. You are here for a reason, and that reason is to not sit holed up in a room alone and keep your talents and uniqueness to yourself. You are here because you are special, you are equipped, you are capable, and the world needs you. You belong in whatever fucking room you want to be in, and you better get off your ass and put your feet there. It is doing the world a disservice if you sit around and think that you're not capable because you're good enough to be here, you're good enough to draw a breath, which means you're good enough to impact other lives. And you have no idea who doesn't have the courage to stand up and say that they need help with something that you have had somebody else give you a lifeline for.
I just feel like I need to start like,
I know. Amen. Amen, Katie. Amen. Yeah. No, exactly. And that's the whole thing. So like why I roped you in is because I know you will push me off the ledge in this pep talk.
Here's why.
Guess what?
Here's why.
Guess what? Now everybody gets to be your friend, Katie.
everybody
And I get to listen to that on repeat over and over and over again whenever the fuck I want because we have this podcast. Paragraph, the end. Not for y'all, for me.
Here's the thing. There are people that I respect, that I respect their accomplishments, right? And so you think, oh, they've earned their space to talk about X because they have accomplished X, Y, and Z. I am far more interested in the people who have done the work, the hard work, deep inside themselves, and strive for the things that align with my heart than I am listening to somebody. So that person has no more right to put their voice out there than we do to put ours in, because we are doing the deep work, the hard work, and the necessary work. And if we actually want to make the world better for those who come after us, this is the kind of shit that you have to do. Because it's not about selling 10 more houses a year, and it's not about making more money, and it's not about X, Y, and Z accomplishment that you can do in your work. It is actually about human connection.
Because there's no great way to measure that growth. No. And I think that people struggle with that. They're like, well, how do I know if I've improved? And to be honest, you don't. It's just something you have to feel your way through.
Look at your circle of friends.
We're waddling. We're waddling together.
and even your circle of friends, right? Like that will change. It will shrink. It will grow. It will deepen. You will have to say goodbye to certain people when they if
they refuse to level up with everyone. And that's the cool thing I want to talk about with that too. Like if we're going to talk about fear and whatnot, it's also like you guys hold me accountable to not being a scared little shit. I mean, like you really do. Like you push me off the fucking ledge. And that's a piece of it. Right? Like you shove me off the ledge. And
Ashleigh said it best in her letter when we were talking about letters of rec, when we said that she's super defensive and she takes care of her people. And she said, I'm going to protect you from yourself too. And that includes pushing you when you're uncomfortable.
Yep. Thanks for her.
Yeah.
You know what it is to me? Fear has become an indicator of where I should go. So wherever I'm feeling fear, I should follow that. And it's like unraveling it and seeing, okay, well, maybe it's something deep inside of me that needs healing. Maybe it's an experience that I just need to feel and get over. And sometimes it's like a connection that I need to make. Like putting out this podcast today, I was telling Katie that, I was like so afraid of our first episode airing. And she's like, what are you talking about? And if you don't follow me online, I make a lot of TikTok videos. And so she's laughing because she's like, you make content all the time. And I was like, yeah, but like TikTok is strangers. Like our podcast is going to be people that know us. And I have this cognitive dissonance that anybody that I know actually sees my TikTok. And so it's
I know.
In my mind,
doubt about.
Sometimes it's that connection. It's like, should I know these people? And they're going to see this? Like, that it's so like that is something that I really want to explore now. I want to follow that. Like, why am I afraid of people that are in my life and choose to put themselves in my life seeing my stuff? Like, what is that? So that's my exploration.
I think there's a really interesting connection of like you valuing their opinion, right? Because so I grew up doing a lot of performing arts. Like I was in theater, dance, I
Theater
sang
kids rise
whatever.
up.
Hashtag same. Hashtag
Yeah.
same.
And it was always so easy for me because on stage there's spotlights and you can't see the audience. And
Yeah.
I didn't care how many people were out there. But then things like I can go sing in front of whatever size crowd, it doesn't matter. But then when I was doing the national anthem for like our high school sporting events, I was so scared because I knew all of them. And one of my friends, I went to warm up before, and one of my friends came in the room with me. And when I went to warm up, all that came out of my mouth was, she was like, well, don't do that. And I said, well, this is one-on-one. I said, that's 200 on one. And the odds of one of those people thinking that I'm okay is a lot better than like this 50-50 shot that I have with you.
It's so true. You know, that's probably very true. Like when it's someone you know and I do value their opinion, if I posted a TikTok and somebody I knew commented and was like, this is not it, I would be horrified. But strangers say that kind of, they'll say like the most vile, evil thing they can think of. And I'm like, LOL. Like,
I know. I got told that I was the worst agent to ever walk the earth this morning. And I'm like,
gross.
Cool. I need to heat up my coffee.
Yeah. And this is where the drunk girl bathroom comes on in. Scoot on in here. Let me love on you for a minute. Dust you off and slap you on the ass. Send you back out there. Fuck all that noise. And continue.
I'm not even an agent anymore.
I know. What is that? Anyway, but we're talking about Friends. Hold on. Fuck. It's like,
are we talking about
like Mama Bear out right now? I'm like, put me in. Let me at him. Hold on. What the fuck were we even talking about? No, I do think that there's something to be said about like the people's opinions that we care about, right? And like those circles blending. And I think that that's part of it with us like entrepreneurs, but honestly, entrepreneurs, and really because we all start with somewhere in sales, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I mean, I think we just need to call a spade with that one because we're taught to put ourselves out there, but not too much. And it's kind of like the Barbie monologue times 10 is what I feel like, right? Because then we're almost taught to market our vulnerability. And I think that that's really where it gets dangerous, I think, sometimes with speakers, and why I like the rawness of us podcasting and when we're just talking to each other, right? Because it's real life. And I think we need to talk about that some with the fear, because all of us, well, at least you and I, Katie, I mean, you and I, Ashleigh, have talked about it a lot, like the fear of like multiple people like seeing, or no, hold on, pause. All of us have talked about it. This is why I even am getting nervous about talking about it, because like this is really my fear representing itself in like the fact that we have people from our family, from our professional life, from our friends, from like all these different seasons, that we are brave enough to have the conversations and waddle through. And I just want to make a point to say how proud of y'all and us I am for saying these things and like knowing it and pulling the lever and doing it anyway, and feeling the fear is what I mean. Not pulling the lever and doing it anyway, but feeling the fear and pulling the lever and doing it anyway. I'm going to say that again, and feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And I'm done. Y'all talk. I can't talk anymore.
So there's actually a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I don't remember the author's name, but I can look it up. And it's really great, but it talks a lot about this concept, and it was very helpful for me because as I try to logic through a lot of things, I think that I try to overcome certain feelings and make them like not exist, which my husband has now told me that is actually like a trait of sociopaths. So I probably shouldn't try to not have emotions. But yeah, probably not. And it's okay to feel fearful or feel fear and not let it dictate your reaction or your actions or your life, and to lean into it. And as Ashleigh was saying, use it as a growth chart, right? Of like, okay, I feel fearful about this. Why do I feel uneasy, or whatever other word you want to use to describe it, but why do I feel this way? And allow yourself to actually feel it for all that it is, and then process through where it's coming from. Because oftentimes, like, the thing about people we know listening to this, if you're fearful about them hearing it and you feel inadequate, my thought to that, because when I first had that thought, was it's probably somebody who, like, I didn't show up the way I wanted to in some capacity. Like, I've probably messed up in front of them in some way and felt unworthy. And now if they see this as negative, it just proves that point. It proves that negative thought in my head that, like, I'm not everything I could be or should be or whatever.
Totally. I 100% agree with that, because that is a huge fear of mine. Obviously, we're human beings. We've had connections that haven't always worked out, or we've had schedules. Like, I've messed up a class I was supposed to be scheduled for and I forgot about and didn't show up to, or something. And so now I'm like, that's all that person thinks of when they think of me. Yep. So the judgment, the talk that they might share, or the feelings they'll have about this will be negative.
Yeah.
You know, that's really interesting the way that you're talking about that, Katie, because I'm sitting here listening to you guys talk and I'm waddling in my own funk, right? And I resonate with everything that you've said. And at the same time, y'all pushing me off the ledge to put yourself out there anyway, as like an example of what's going on. But I'm so uncomfortable about it.
Interesting to me, because we talk about fear and vulnerability and how it's important to be vulnerable, especially when you're showing up online. And I almost want to teach people to replace showing up as vulnerable and instead think of it as showing up as authentic, because there's like this push to almost make sure that you take your pain and turn it into profit. And I don't think that that should be what we are trying to do. Like, take the pieces of you that are the deepest struggles and put them out there and make sure that you are profiting from it. And to me, like, that's intense, and it might work for some people. And I don't know that all of us will ever waddle through all the shit to get to the point where throwing it all out there is helpful to ourselves and to others. So
I think also sometimes there are things that you have to go through in private. And I know it's very helpful when you can give people someone to relate to, but some things you really do need to be able to process in private. And we've all kind of created, I like to think of home as like a bunker, right? And whether you define home as a physical space or a person or whatever, but you have this home base that's like your bunker. And sometimes it's only between you and that person. And maybe later on down the road, you can share and you can be vulnerable about something that happened to you. But it doesn't mean that you have to share every single detail of your life constantly. Yes. Could somebody maybe benefit from it? Perhaps. But could they benefit from the better you that comes out of you doing the deep work privately and allowing yourself to process things? Yeah, they Absolutely. Can do that a lot more, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's just you like showing up as the growing person you are and not the person that just word vomits everything you're going through.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I think like, and that also makes me think about with feeling the fear is sometimes there's so much pressure on feel the fear and do it anyways. And I'm a huge supporter of it. And sometimes I think it might be feel the fear, get all the information, make an informed decision, you know?
Like, do you remember what I wrote about you in your letter of rec?
She's always getting all this information. Yes, I am a collector of information. So going back to when I said I was forced on roller coasters, and the fact that I hated roller coasters was pretty much embedded in the fact that I didn't like being forced to do stuff that I wasn't ready to do. I might have come around to roller coasters a lot sooner in life had I not been forced on them. So when my kids started showing up as afraid of roller coasters, I was like, okay, I'm going to encourage them. I'm not going to force them. We went to Great Wolf Lodge not too long ago. It's one of those big indoor water parks. and they are just now getting into water slides. They both like them. There was one of those 4-person ones where you can all sit on the tube together. And they're like, yes, we want to do that. So we go up, we get in line, and we start seeing, we get up close enough where we can see people going. And my daughter, Cassie, who is 12, is like, that looks really steep. And I'm like, it's probably not. It's a 4-person ride. Like, I doubt it's steep. We get a little closer, and then she's like, no, that looks really steep. And I was like, you know what? Let's just get all the way to the front. Let's take a peek, and we'll ask the lifeguard about it.
Yeah.
We get up to the front, we look, I'm like, it'll be fine. It'll be super fun. And then I go, hey, you know, to the lifeguard, what is this ride like really steep? Is there a big drop? And she goes, have you ever been on this one before? I said, no, none of us have. And she goes, okay, yeah, it's a really big drop. And I was like, well, you weren't supposed to say that because now they're not going to go on it. But like, yeah. But then I was like, deep down, I was like, you know what? They both want to turn around. Let's just do it. So we turned around, we left. We went back down to a different water slide that we knew we liked. And when we left Great Wolf Lodge, you can see the water slides from outside. So we stopped and we looked at the tube and I saw the drop and I thought, thank God we weren't on that because they would have been traumatized. They wouldn't have gone on the water slide with me because I'm sitting there reassuring them like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I didn't actually know that. I would have been fine. I would have, you know, but they might not have been. And so sometimes I think there's some level of, you just got to get the information and you might feel the fear and decide it's not time yet to pull the lever.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And I think that I love that they have you, right? Like your mom to help them guide you through those decisions. And I think that's the big part of teaching is so that way they know, right? Better than all of this and that with it. And I love that you're doing that. And I love that you share those stories with me too, Ashleigh, because like, it reminds me that I don't have to be such a hard ass all the time.
I think, Ashleigh, like you just summed up so much of what I was thinking about. Like when I say find your people, that was such a perfect example. And thank you for sharing that because sometimes overcoming fear or feeling more comfortable is because you have somebody with you that you trust, who has done more research or has, just like when I said I was scared of roller coasters until I would talk myself into like, well, some kind of engineer built this who understands what's going on. I don't understand what's going on. And so like you play that role for your kids, right? Who they're going to trust what you say because you're the adult, but they also know that you're going to protect them. And like when they are uncomfortable, like, yes, obviously we could go down a rabbit hole of like pushing your kids, you know, when they're uncomfortable and teaching them about doing uncomfortable things. But like, you are going to watch out for what they need and telling them it's okay. Like you're not comfortable. You don't want to do this. This isn't what's best for you. You're okay. And for you as a parent to respect those boundaries is enormous and is going to help them so much. I feel like not being fearful because they're going to understand how to collect data and do research and then make an informed decision and it doesn't have to be fear or not fear. It's just, let's get some information and decide. And whatever I decide is okay.
Yeah, totally. And don't get me wrong, I've shoved them off of a few things with
for sure
in their eyes. But, like we went sledding once and they were scared of the sledding hill. And I was like, goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was such a cool example. But also, Ashleigh, and this is totally switching gears, I know you had shared with us, we talk a lot about like events or whatever leading us to feel fearful or being fearful of a thing. And you talked a little bit about feeling like you were on an island driving you into some fear, right? And I know you touched earlier on some imposter syndrome, but did you have like a driving force behind that or something that changed it?
You know, I think like I went through a divorce, like, I don't know, 6 years or something ago now. And that was a big driving force in just, I got married really young and you just go through this real shockwave of who am I without this other person and without this role of wife and my role of mother has changed. And I'm all of a sudden forced to figure out who I am. You want to go out and like make friends, but you don't know how to present yourself. Somebody says, who are you? What are your interests? And you're like, ow, I have no idea. And that was a huge driving force where I just threw myself off a cliff. And that is when I started saying, you know what? It's just time for me to experience a bunch of things that might not be me and see, you know, they'll make a good story. Like there's a song after, now I'm going to have to edit this out because I'm going to forget what it is. It's from AJR, 100 Bad Days. 100 Bad Days, 100 Great Stories. 100 Great Stories make me interested in parties. Yeah. I love that song. And that came out, I think, pretty close to my divorce. And so I was listening to that and I was like, this is totally like 100 Bad Days, 100 Bad Stories. Let's go. Let's just try shit. So I signed up and I went skydiving. And, you know, my family's laughing because they're like, the kid that cried on the roller coasters is voluntarily skydiving. And I'm in a meetup group and a group of them were like, hey, we're going to go skydiving. We get a group rate. It's super cheap. Who wants to go? And I was like, I will. Why not? It's a group of friends to help you jump off. And so I showed up and
coupon? Sign me up.
Yeah, you guys have all done it. And like a lot of them were repeat skydivers. And I was like, I've never heard anybody say that they regret having skydived. Like, have you?
Right. No.
Never. They never say that. Turns out there are people that have.
Well, the ones who do usually
talking like I'll never do that again.
Yeah, you probably hear from those people.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna hear the ones who regret it.
But it's so funny because I am still, like I said, I'm a screamer. I show up to the skydiving place. They're fitting us for everything. It was like an hour and a half drive. So I had a huge coffee. I show up there. They're fitting us for harnesses and everything. And my whole life, public speaking and everything, I've been like, if I can go first, I'll be happy to get it done. I want to be the one that gets it done. So I'm like, yep, I'll be one of the first ones up in the plane. And they put the harness on me. And I thought that they were going to take it back off for a little bit, but they didn't. And I had to pee so bad.
Oh, no.
And they're like, okay, so we got to go get in the plane now. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to pee my pants while I am skydiving. The whole plane ride up, super calm. They're showing us stuff. The other girl I was with was panicking. She like couldn't talk. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. This is so fun.
Girl, I'm about to pee my pants. Shut up.
I'm about to make it rain.
Possible, please. Can we jump? And they're like, oh, by the way, you know, people do pass out while they're skydiving because they forget to breathe. So they said, if you feel like screaming, make sure you do. It'll help you breathe. Because the Air Force is just that's the thing I wasn't expecting is how intense the wind is from the jump.
Say less.
So I'm so calm. We get to the right altitude whenever, and I'm the first one out of the plane.
So calm.
They flip the door open, and there's a picture. I'll repost it because it's so flipping funny to me. My face is just like as soon as they open that door, and I'm looking straight down. And you have no choice. I mean, like, I was one of those people that always joke, if I'm skydiving, like, I'm gripping that you can't. I don't know how they do it, but you just can't. And so they just take you out of the plane. You're standing on the wing of the plane. And my guy did a flip, and I'm just screaming. Immediately screaming. Because they told me to, and I'm such a good student, I scream.
My perfectionism coming out.
And it's a Sunday. There's a church in service getting out right below us. We get down to the ground, we land. I'm like, that was awesome. That was so fun. I walk back over to where everyone else in the friend group is and all the instructors, and they're fucking dying laughing. And they said, we could hear you the entire way down. Approaching land the whole time. And they said I was the loudest person that has ever been there. So
did you get an award?
I was like, that's my badge of honor. Thank you. And then they give you a beer, thankfully, when you get down, because you're like shaking your adrenaline and your nerves, and they give you a beer, and it helps so much. And I got to go to the bathroom. So didn't pee my pants. Loudest screamer. Win-win.
I would not have been able to. I've been like, no, dog. Like, you got to take this off right now.
Yeah, it's just so funny because it was like, I'm so freaking glad I did that. And I tell a lot of people, I didn't wait for like a big birthday. Like a lot of people do it for like their 30th or, like it's a big milestone thing. And I didn't do that. And I'm glad I didn't, because you know what? Like, I get on the ground and you're like so much adrenaline, so much is going on, and you kind of feel like a different person. You're like, I just did something I never would have done before, and that's so cool, and I'm so proud. And then everybody gets down off the skydiving trip and everybody goes home, and I had to go to the grocery store because I needed to get groceries. And you're like, okay, and I'm still the exact same person I was before. Cool. Like
you're walking through the grocery store like, did you know I just jumped out of I came here from the sky.
I came here from the sky. It was pretty awesome. Like, you have no idea how cool I am now. And so it's just funny to me. Like, you feel all this personal growth, but like outwardly nothing changes. And that is kind of, I think, what spurred me into, you know what? It doesn't need to be about other people. It needs to be about me. It's not about, am I worthy of other people? It's, am I worthy of my own time? Do I like who I am?
Yeah. I love that you just spun that in like a positive manner. And I've always heard that presented in like the negative sense of like whenever somebody puts you through something, like the therapy session of like somatic therapy, I think it's called. Hold on, I want to pause. Like, I want to Google this because it's like worth. I think it's somatic therapy. Have y'all ever heard of this? Like, literally look it up. Somatic counseling. It's a type of therapy that treats PTSD and blah, blah, blah. But it talks about connecting your mind and your body together and walking you through the physiological responses to your body during stress. And then you calming yourself down, like self-regulating from heightened state. So then the question at the end of it, essentially, like, did you die? And it's like slowly like re-exposing yourself to something until you like overcome and like recognize that like you're safe, like through it on your own. And I love the way that you just equated that to like a positive reinforcement and like thrill seeking or like new experience or opportunities to fail that you succeed through as something to pursue. And I think that right there speaks a lot as well to like when we're talking about waddling through shit and the hard work that Katie's done, in the sense that like that's the way that you share that perspective is the opportunities that you look forward to have that to continue to develop your person. And I think that's really beautiful. We're talking about all this stuff that we've been through and getting to a point to be able to have a seat at that table to have those conversations with you, right? And so maybe for people who haven't gone through, quote unquote, and I'm doing big air quotes for everybody who can't see me, who are, haven't gone through their shit and are still working through it, is that being like a goal to go through? It's like, one, recognize the shit that you've been through, that you were scared of, that you did anyway, and draw some strength from yourself there and trust that you can do it again. And that you're not going to die the next time that you do it. And then maybe even learn to seek those opportunities to hone in that skill to become more fearless, right?
You hit the nail on the head, Biz. I think that it doesn't always have to be jumping out of a plane, right?
Right.
I think the thing that probably did, Ashleigh, that you talk about is like build up some confidence of I showed up for myself and I did that. And I talk a lot about how, because right now, a really big thing is this like grit or hustle culture and whatever versus being happy. And sometimes I think that grit looks like getting out of bed in the morning, right? Depending on where you're at. And so if you're in the midst of shit or a really fearful situation, you don't have to jump out of a plane, but you can find the equivalent of like, what's something that you're scared to do? And it might be a conversation or it might be a boundary, and take a step towards it and show it for yourself, because the next day, the next scarier thing is going to be a little less scary because you survived and you're okay.
Heck yeah, you did. And we're your friends now. And just like what this podcast was. Yeah. But what you're talking about, Katie, the whole time you're talking just now, all I keep thinking of is that this is the perfect example of it and how proud of us I am for launching our first episode today.
No.
Yeah.
We're actually recording our episodes, like future episodes, while we dropped, immediately after we dropped the first one. I think subliminally, for me anyway, a little subliminally, so I can be distracted and get to talk to you guys and not be scared to watch it, right? And at the same time, like, I'm so proud of us for doing that.
So proud.
Collectively.
I am too. Can I share? I put this in our group chat, my Facebook memories from today a year ago.
Yes.
And I checked them. It's funny, I usually check them like right at midnight, right as I go to sleep. But I checked it like right after I uploaded the podcast and it became live on a couple places. And on my Facebook and Instagram stories a year ago today, there's 2 things that I posted. One says, be messy and complicated and afraid and show up anyways. I thought that was perfect. And then it said, when it feels scary to jump, that is exactly when you jump. Otherwise, you just end up staying in the same place your whole life.
Oh,
I thought it was such perfect timing.
Ooh,
good one. Very much am leaning into blending all of these different circles that I feel like are almost different personalities of me that have led to this jumbled dystopia of a person. That it's like, so when you're talking about like when you feel that fear because you have, you're worried about how you showed up. It's like, I can't keep track of how I'm supposed to show up anymore. So I'm just showing up how the fuck I can, the best I can in the moment. And if you can't forgive me and have grace to fail forward and whatever, then like, fuck you. Like, and I'm trying really hard to have that courage and that bravery, and like, y'all as my friends, right? Like, you talk about the perfectionism, and I think that a lot of it stems there from that perfectionist. Like, you always want to, appear the best shape you can for someone. And then it's like when you're in multiple environments and you have to be the best for that person in whatever room you're in, then you learn how to become the best of a lot of different places, and you can lose yourself. And like, that is what happened to me in COVID, is I got pulled in a lot of different directions. And it's not that I wasn't being authentic. It's that, when you have bits and pieces of you in other parts of your tribe, but not like a tribe that like sees you as a whole. And that's why y'all are so valuable to me, because and like when I say I feel safe to be seen, it's like the entire thing. And
today's episode is brought to y'all by me, Biz. The scariest thing I've ever done in my professional life was leave mortgage banking to build this new table utilizing the transparent platform that My Community Mortgage LLC provided me. My community gave me the tools to build from fairness and integrity first. Embrace the fail fast, fail forward attitude I've grown to love. And, the world needs more of us, and we are so much more powerful together. If you're a lender listening or know of one who needs a stronger community to keep getting after it, please email me your resume at biz@myc4communityhomeloans.com. It's so important to have like-minded people encouraging you to have fear and do it anyway. And there's always room for more at our table, y'all. Please consider this an open invitation to anyone who wants to take a seat and get after it with us. biz@mychomeloans.com.